committee meeting. Wait, there's more.
Wait, you skipped me. It's me. Okay, there we go with this collection.
But wait, there's more. All right. I am Councilor Driscoll, the DPW chair. With me, we have Councilors Hogan, Caldwell, Gathers, President Hudson, Councilor Green, Councilor Schultz, and is the clerk taking off? Yeah, clerk's, he's trying to get out of here. Oh no, she bites. And we have Carmelita in the house. What's up, girl? We have Director Dunham, Commissioners Robinson and Fordock. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the potential contract with Barton and LaJudas to improve our waste collection systems. So get us started, Director Dunham.
Will do. So I have a presentation that I've presented to you. There's also additional copies in the back for anybody that would like to see it. Apologies to those who are watching at home, but you'll just have to follow along. So this is for engineering services for our waste collection system improvements. So just kind of as some background, as many folks know, we as an administration, we're interested in improving the way in which solid waste is collected in the city. We issued an RFP and selected Barton and LaJudas to do a study of the sanitation operation. They presented, I think it's almost to the date, a month ago to the council, and that meeting is available online for those who would like to view it, of their findings. And so what we are trying to do now is move toward the implementation of the study that they presented. And so what we'll do here is just go through the scope of services, very high level, obviously, for the council, if you haven't already seen the proposal that they put forward. We issued an RFP for those who were willing to help us implement what was put forth in the study, and we had one bidder, Barton and LaJudas. And so this is the proposal that they put forward. There's a lot more detail in this, but what I have before you is just kind of an overview. So it's not exhaustive, but I feel like it gives a good sense of what we're looking to do with this contract. So the first task would be to modify the solid waste and recyclables collection and disposal ordinance. As many of you know, the ordinances, and as Deputy Commissioner Fordock knows because she reads them a lot more frequently than I think anybody else, some of them are confusing, some of them are conflicting, some of them have gaps that don't address issues that we have now. And so one of the services that Barton and LaJudas would provide to us under this contract is to take a look at those and see, how does this, with the understanding that we want to move to carts. I feel like that's the universal agreement that we're all into. We want to move to the totes that have the tops on them and you can wheel them out. They're larger for both trash and recycling. How do our ordinances change to reflect that? What's the requirement to use the carts? What goes in the carts and what's unacceptable to go in the carts? What do we do if they're lost or stolen? What's our procedure for bulk waste? How does this change illegal setouts? Is everything that doesn't fit in the cart an illegal set out now, or does it become part of a bulk waste program? So that would be task one, is just taking a look at our ordinances and see how they fit with where we want to go. The second task would be to implement a cart pilot program and the citywide rollout. Obviously, we're not just going to dump 96,000 carts off at people's houses and say, best of luck. We would want to make sure that it's convenient and clear to residences. And so we'd likely start in certain neighborhoods. And, I think I've mentioned before, do you start in the neighborhoods where you have the biggest challenges in terms of unacceptable waste? Or do you start in the neighborhoods where, generally speaking, we don't have as many of those issues? And, is it a mix? So we'd be looking to them to help us there. Also working with our employees about handling the carts and the tippers. How do we put together a bid document in order to get estimates for the cart purchase? As part of the pilot, how are the carts and tippers working? What's the set out requirement going to be? Do we stay with the same frequency that we have now? Is it weekly? And also, how do we deliver the carts? How does that rollout work? So that's, what we'd be looking for them to do for the second task. Task 3 is bulk waste. So anybody who has driven around the city knows that bulk waste is an issue, often referred to as illegal setouts. They're not always illegal setouts. There are things that we accept. And is that how it needs to stay? Do we still want to take tires and mattresses and, is it called white something? White goods? Carpeting, things like that. Do we want to set new limits? Do we want to set new restrictions now that the carts are going to be larger? So presumably in terms of trash, you can fit more into the carts.
Corey, I'm sorry.
Don't
Can I ask
apologize.
you a question? When you talk about the illegal setouts, I know once before we had got a breakdown on what it cost us to remove all those tires and what it cost us to remove all those televisions, because it's not free, and we're the
Correct.
ones that have to pay for it. So could you get another breakdown?
Sure,
'Cause I'm
yeah.
sure it's
Yeah,
picked up.
absolutely, yeah. And I think this also, to that point, dovetails nicely with some of the strategic planning that Okra is doing now to try and figure out, is there a way that, other municipalities have eco-waste drop sites? And so basically bring your televisions, bring your paint, bring your mattresses. And so rather than, well, if it's a mattress, bring it here between these hours. If it's paint, bring it here. If it's a TV, you got to try and bring it back to the manufacturer, trying to make this easier for residents. But absolutely, we can get those figures to you. I mean, because it does come at a cost. I know there was a recent letter to the editor about TVs being out in the city and that the city should just pick them up. That comes at a cost.
Because we approved the last cost.
Right, and it costs us to get rid of tires. And, so is there a way that we want to change the set out limits or the instructions on how? Is it still, you set it out with your trash, or other municipalities do, it's once a month and it's citywide, or is it by quadrant per month? Is there a different way that we could do it than we do it now, which is basically set it out with your trash and we'll figure it out?
That's residential, because I know I've gone by some auto repair shops, and well that those tires that they put down the block came from their auto repair shop.
Right. I mean, and that is a problem because, and fortunately, we're not the first municipality to do this, but that's in part why BNL's experience will benefit us, is that if you do start to squeeze a little bit too tightly on residences, then all of a sudden tires show up in parks and tires show up on vacant lots because you've made it too difficult for folks to try and dispose of it. So how can we, and again, looking at other municipalities who have done this before, we're not the first ones to do it. How could we kind of strike that balance where we don't want you to abuse the system, we want it to be easy to use, because if we make it too difficult for folks or too costly, then they're going to find a way to get rid of that stuff, and it's going to cost us anyway. So, BNL, having the expertise that they have, having the breadth of experience and worked with other municipalities, they're really going to be able to direct us on, Poughkeepsie had that same problem and this is how they solved it, or Saratoga or Buffalo or anybody like that. So, bulk waste is obviously a major issue. And also, how do we, they'll be able to help us develop some bid specifications for equipment and trucks. Right now, as the B&L staff that we're following our sanitation trucks see, you've got people lifting couches and lifting really heavy equipment and really things that they're discarding, and that puts a stress on our employees, and it doesn't need to be that way. So is there equipment? I mean, there is. And trucks that we can purchase that would make the disposal of bulk waste a lot safer for our employees. Task 4, evaluating privatization. So a couple things. One is there is no way that the city can come in and lay everybody off from sanitation. That's not an option. That's not an option available to us. That's not something we can do. We can't just give everybody their pink slips and bring in Syracuse haulers. That's not how it works. There are a bunch of different ways that this could work. We could decide not to pursue it at all. Some municipalities would contract out trash, but the city still does recycling. We could contract out trash and recycling, and we do bulk pickups. As Commissioner Robinson and Deputy Commissioner Fordock will tell you, there's no shortage, as anybody who lives in the city knows, there's no shortage. We're never going to, of litter, of issues with trash, of bulk set-outs. We will always have enough work for folks. So, we were looking at it similarly. Again, if we decide to go down this road, that there was initially resistance to bringing in Rosselli to help us pave roads, to bring in an outside contractor. And what we said to Kevin Hunter and his crew is, it would be great if there were, but there's never going to be a time where we don't have potholes and we don't have streets that need to be paved. So we are not taking work away from you. It's just that we have more work than our equipment and our staff can handle. And so let's see if we can bring some folks in to help us. So there are a bunch of different ways that this could be structured. And I think, you know, the question is, do we want to at least know what the options are? Issuing an RFP doesn't obligate us to go forward with it, but at least we're making an informed decision. We know what the options are. So I'm not advocating for it, but I just want to be transparent that it's not as if, you know, one day we come in and everybody from sanitation loses their job. That we can't do that. And so, you know, is there a way that private companies could help us out with, you know, given the issues that we have with fleet management, given the issues that we have with absenteeism? Is there a way that the private industry could help supplement our operation? So,
You know me, I'm full of questions.
yeah, that's fine.
So I'm gonna hit you with another question. Are we still doing trash pickup the way we started doing it 30 years ago? Or is there a way that we can look at how we can become leaner with trash pickup instead of privatizing?
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, I don't, you know, these are the experts. I don't see any way in which it's changed in 30 years.
Right,
It's,
so maybe we need to look inside
We do.
first before we start giving it out to somebody else. Jeremy, I don't want to call out stuff, right? I'm just asking a question because, let's be honest, I'm not trying to be funny here, but you get paid for 8 hours and work 6. Maybe we need to start looking at how we're doing that.
I don't think that's gonna cut out the trash, hours of work. It's always gonna sit on the same problem, mechanics, trucks, issues.
But we're talking bulk waste pickup now. We're not talking mechanics and trucks. We're talking,
well, I mean, so the privatization, it could go in a bunch of different ways. And so we don't right now need to answer, do we want to privatize? We're not at that point yet. But the question really at this point is, do we even want to explore it? Do we even want to know what our options are? You know, and again, it doesn't obligate us to go forward with it. We issue RFPs all the time, and some of them we move forward with, and some of them we don't, because we decide, you know what, that's more expensive than we thought it was going to be. We can do it in-house, or that's a service that we're no longer looking for, and so we don't end up going forward. But if we want to really know our options and really make an informed decision, one way to do that is to issue the RFP about privatization. And we're not going to do it today. I mean, the idea is to bring B&L on board, have them give us, what are some things that other municipalities do? You've seen our system, you know what the private sector can offer us. What are some options that might help with some of the issues that we struggle with now with picking up trash, recycling, bulk waste, all those things. So, you know, not a decision that we need to make today, but when we eventually get there, and honestly, whether or not we go down the privatization route or not, we're going to need B&L for all of these other things as well, all the other scope of services. So not a question that we need to answer today, but B&L, if, you know, under this contract, they are willing and ready to help us make that decision, but not something that we need to decide today.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt to look at the data and what they are showing, Corey.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and they'll tell you the only way for us to really know how much it's going to cost us, again, in whatever configuration we want to do it, we just want you to do trash. We will continue to maintain our workforce to do recycling and bulk waste. I mean, that's just an example. And as the leadership at DPW will tell you, you know, right now we have 5 people that are helping us to clean up litter across the city.
And
You know, we could take some of those sanitation workers and repurpose them. We could have 6 people in each quadrant picking up trash. I mean, we could be the cleanest city. You know, I mean, there are different ways that we could make this work, and it doesn't mean people losing their jobs.
So I'm listening to you. Is like, let's just get straight to it. What is the main reason why you want to send it out to another organization?
So, I mean, I personally am agnostic, yeah. But I mean,
Like, tell us what's really like going on. Like, what's actually
Jeremy,
happening.
come on up. Buddy.
Tell us.
Come on up.
I don't know if my boss will let me, but I'll tell you what I can
Let
tell
us
you.
know. We need to know.
So the problem is,
Saw that eager.
I'm always eager. I'm always eager to talk about sanitation in the city of Syracuse. Man, let's look at it. You walk out your door and what you see? Litter, tires everywhere, all types of stuff that we're just ignoring. You know, some of the neighbors don't pick it up, and We get calls from counselors and telling us, hey, we got this, we got that. Can we go pick this up? We have limited staff, limited trucks, and 6 mechanics. I'm gonna say that again, 6 mechanics. That's all we have. With a fleet like ours, it's tough. It's tough to maintain our sanitation and pick up everything and do what we have to do to make the city look good. So it's just, we need help. That's plain and simple. We need help, and we need you guys to help us.
Well, deputize us. Give us a ticket book. And when we see tires, we got them.
I think we're past that. We're past that.
So,
So saying that, I'm not saying privatize, but we need help.
right,
So that's
why
the,
you say like, so with purchasing newer trucks, more modern trucks, like taking a certain area and doing a pilot to say, okay, does this work better if we had the trucks that lift up and do, is that something we can start off with? Or like,
it's getting trucks is, what would we, 24 months out, on getting trucks? So by time then, our term would be over. You know, I'm just trying to make the best decision for DPW for now and the future. I'm tired of the city of Syracuse looking the way it is. You know, you got impoverished neighborhoods like the city, South Side and the West Side that just get overlooked all the time. And I try my best to try to accommodate everybody, but it's just getting tough with all the calls and all the stuff that we got to do. Tires, we're never going to get rid of all these tires. People find nooks and crannies to put them everywhere. What would we catch? 20, 25,
Yeah, and
2,500 to,
and
yeah.
I will
say for what it's worth, the process would take 9 months from beginning to end to really do a full RFP for privatization. So, you know, we could, you know, start the conversation, and then in 9 months' time, when it comes time to, all right, do we want to actually do this? You know, we'll have some more trucks. We'll be able to evaluate then. You know, we'll be in a better place than we are right now to see whether or not this is still makes sense. Maybe we end up scaling it back. Maybe we end up scaling it up. I mean, so the whole process is going to take 9 months. It's not as if we put an RFP on the street tomorrow.
employees, we wouldn't lose any employees.
No, we wouldn't lose any.
We can't, I mean,
Contractually, we can't.
Yeah, we can't lay them off and replace them with private.
And like she said, we got 5 guys litter picking all day long. That's all they do. And you see Andy's crew, Counselor Hogan. Sure. They do a great job, but right back the next day is litter everywhere.
And when you talk about the employees, I want to ask a question because, Corey, you made a comment about the absenteeism, and I don't want the names. I just want to know the percentage. I want you to give us the percentage of what your absenteeism
Sure.
looks like.
No, I'd be happy to. I mean, it's just, you know, and we are trying to address this through our contract negotiations because oftentimes what the employees are doing is fully within their right to do so in the contract. And so in our contract negotiations with Local 400, we have tried to target that absenteeism to try and discourage, you know, that excessive absenteeism where, you know, between the absenteeism and workers' comp, there were days earlier this year where we had more people out than we had on
I'd like
at
to
work.
see that.
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
know about anybody else, but I would like to see
Sure.
that.
So I mean, so for what that's worth, you know, it's a long process to do an RFP, and we would engage with the council to, you know, show you what the proposal looks like, what we want to include, what maybe the different options we want to look at. But it's a 9-month timeframe, which in 9 months, you know, we'll have more trucks. You know, maybe it changes the way we want to pursue things. Maybe we don't pursue it at all. You know, I mean, 9 months is a long time. So, you know, and again, all we need to decide at this point is whether or not we want to explore it.
And the issue with the employees happened post-COVID, is that correct, or pre-COVID?
What's that, having what?
Was this pre or post-COVID with the issue with the
Absenteeism is just, I mean, it's always an issue at I mean, COVID certainly didn't help, but, you know, I think absenteeism has always been an issue, and like I said, in part, it's because the contract, what they're doing is fully within the confines of the contract, so the contract needs to change, which is what we're doing now.
So Corey, I have another question.
Sure.
I'm not sure if you could answer it, but as far as like the tires, I see that all over the city. I just saw a bunch of them on the north side yesterday.
Yeah.
How much does it really cost us to get rid of that?
How many? $268 a ton. And how many tires in a ton?
How many is it?
Roughly. Like, That's okay.
I'm gonna say 200 tons and I'm gonna be off.
Yeah, 200 tires, 206,
Nobody comes to work.
right. Oh, yeah. But how many, I don't know how many tires. I'm sure somebody at home is doing the math of how many tires are in a ton.
Suggestion, as I know you're doing the bulk piece, but if we could do a day or 2 days or whatever, throughout the summer, that we actually allow them to really drop them off. And
I gotta get to them.
might change in there to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and that's why some of the e-recycling events have been successful because, you know, people can bring them to a place that they know.
Bring them, like,
Yeah.
figure out a way, because if people gotta bring them, I can.
Right. No, yeah, just to say that there's a dedicated event that's focused on that. And, you know, and so there are, you know, a bunch of municipalities do it a lot of different ways. So absolutely.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
that's what we can contract out and have someone.
Maybe, I mean, you know, maybe we contract out bulk waste. Maybe I mean, there are a bunch of different ways that we can structure this. The question is just whether or not we want to explore it. Not whether or not we need to sign the contract or award it. It's just whether or not we want to explore it.
Corey,
Yes.
I think this discussion is very important, right?
I hope
Because
so.
As somebody that live on the southwest area, as you alluded, Commissioner, it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Trash everywhere, tires everywhere. I think, and you remember me texting you about 2 weeks ago for tires at Garzone. Somebody just dropped about 7 or 8 of them in front, and then just left.
Yeah, right.
You know, and that doesn't include excluded areas that people can sneak back there and just start to dump
Yeah.
stuff in, right? So when you look at this, so my question to you, Commissioner, is you talk about employees and you talk about fleet. Is there any mechanism to try to address that? Because people are paying their taxes and they expect services to be delivered, you know? What's the plan here? Do we increase? Do we hire more?
This is the plan right here.
Okay.
This is what we need. We need you guys to back us on this, and they did the study and let us see it through. I mean, if privatize is what we need, and we need your backing. I mean, if that's what we decide to go, I mean, I'm telling you, it's a problem in not just the South and the West. It's a problem everywhere.
Right.
But majority of the times you see it on the South and the West end. And in the North side, it looks like a bomb goes off after every weekend.
So when you talk about employees and folks working for DPW, how short are we?
We got 14 open driver positions. We're pretty short, but the fleet is the problem right now, is the fleet. We got 11 trucks, 12 trucks to do recycling and trash. We're supposed to have 15 to do trash and 9 to do recycling. So that's 24, and we're only got 12.
Okay.
So it's tough. And then the mechanics is working nonstop 24 hours to try to get them up, but with 5, it's tough.
And is it correct that it's my understanding that part of the problem with not having enough fleet is the back order?
That's the problem.
That's okay.
I mean, those limitations would be, the private companies have the same limitations.
They do.
Manpower,
They do. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's similar to, you know, anything we privatize, but that becomes their problem to solve and not.
well, it's our problem, actually, because.
Well,
they
I mean-
Perform the duty.
Right, but I mean, for example, we contract out some of our streetlight maintenance, and that company, their truck went down, and we said, well, that's on you. They got their new truck, and now they're working around the clock to catch up on the week that they missed, you know, so that's not us having to pay our folks overtime and having to pay mechanics. That's somebody else having to
Us
solve that
getting phone
problem.
calls
Right.
From people all the time.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, I think we're all looking for something that works.
right.
You know, and I'll tell you, Commissioner Robinson, Commissioner Hordak, they're probably the most responsive Department of Public Works people I've ever worked with, you know, they are always there, and I know the limitations are in.
Right.
You know, I would love to see if this survey, you know, I know it seems sort of contrarian, but we had more people in the city a bunch of years ago, but I think we got more trash now. You don't
Yeah.
have a McDonald's in every corner when I was growing up, or, you know, I mean, it's like I think this city generates a lot of trash. And so I would love to see what the tonnage is we pick up
We can do that.
over the years. I mean, we probably, somewhere
Sure.
in the city.
Yeah, no, we've got that. We've got that info. Yeah, Ann's got that. So just to move off privatization for just a second and just move through the other remaining tasks, and then it's real quick to questions. So task 5 is route optimization. So, as BNL found in their study and presented to the council, a lot of our routes are just uneven. And so some crews are picking up a lot more trash than others. And, the number of properties that are on there, the types of properties, they're just outdated. And so BNL would be helping us to do route optimization. So they would, look at the number of stops on each collection route, including those that, might require special equipment, or, neighborhoods where there are chronic issues with either unacceptable waste or anything like that would factor in if an entire, maybe break those up a little bit more so that it's not just, this is the day when everybody pretty much knows what to put in the trash, and this is the day when everybody doesn't know what to put in the trash, and so that's an additional strain and stress on the staff. So, just route optimization, I think, would be, is something that we really need to pursue, so that we can make it easier on the staff and more equitable across the board. Grant opportunities. The good news about this program is that there are lots of grant opportunities through, listed on here, the DEC, the USDA, SU, the EPA, private industries. Ann and I have met a couple times with Recycle America. We're right in partnership, yeah, and they have lots of funding available for these types of programs, so that's one good thing. And so,
Question about that?
Yeah.
So would BNL be the one to identify these?
Yes.
And write the grants?
Yes.
And submit the grants?
Yes.
For that $311,000 you're asking for?
yeah, I mean, because as much, and because of the network that Ann has, comes across these grant opportunities, but finding the time to collect all the information and write the grants is a lot. And so BNL would be the ones to do that for us. And then finally, just presentations to the council and the public. This is going to take a lot of outreach and a lot of public education, whatever direction we decide to go in, and we want to make sure that people are engaged in the conversation. So, whether it's traditional outlets or whether it's digital platforms, that we're doing that, and also leveraging outreach programs that are already there. Okra, New York State, DEC, they already have some programs that we could piggyback on top of. The proposed fee, so anticipating that most of the work would take place in the first 2 years of the contract, so 22 and 23, but obviously, depending on everything goes, there might be more rollout in education into 23 and 24. The cost is here, the proposed cost for each year, so the total is about $311,000, and this would be funded. We had set aside, as part of the American Rescue Plan Act, $1.5 million to help us with the implementation of this program, so the money would come through ARPA. The proposed timeline is there. I know.
Corey Driscoll, do you think we can read that?
I was about to say, this looked bigger when I was looking at it on my computer. So I can send that out. Well, President Hudson, I'm sure you remember it from this 50-page document. I'm sure you can recite by heart the proposed timeline.
In my memory.
So I can send that out to you, and also there is a section here of the broken down proposed fee that I can also, just how, because we asked them to break it down per task. So that's there as well, and again, if we decide not to evaluate privatization, that's not a cost we incur, but they do have that cost in here as well. Questions?
The mics are freaking me out.
Right, tell Frank Kaliva.
Guys, put it in your
Whoever's gonna do
budget.
it. And just to answer a question that came up earlier, it's 55 tires per ton.
Per ton.
So that would be about 45 loads a year, and we pay between 10 and 15 grand a year to get rid of our tires.
Believe it.
For those who are interested,
Did you calculate the
I did that with Google and a calculator.
I was about to
For
say.
those of you who are curious how I came to that number.
Right?
Per tire, about 40 pounds per tire.
40
What's
bucks
that?
per tire.
That's
Yeah.
high. That's a high estimate.
Oh, how many dollars per tire?
Oh, I didn't break that
Tim,
down.
you've got your calculator,
I'll do it.
right? I thought you bring
Now
your
that Tim's
calculator
not on the council
to
anymore,
all
I have to
sanitation
fill his
meetings.
position of running the calculator.
I thought that was required for all sanitation meetings, that Tim brings a calculator.
But yeah, my one question I just had, and thank you for this presentation. Could you give it? You guys mentioned gaps that are currently in the ordinances and stuff. Could you give examples of where we're falling short on that and
So, Ann,
where
yeah.
you'd hope, what kind
I
of
mean,
improvements?
you know, some of the ones that we
might be
hear most
addressed?
often is, you know, and these are small quality of life things, and we'll get into the more solid waste thing. But one that I hear is, where do you store the cans, and where, is there anything that says that you have to pull them back? And, that's one that I hear a lot. But Ann, I'm sure you can speak to. Go ahead, you can come up.
Hi, Ann Fordock, Deputy Commissioner. So there's all kinds of things. Like it says a 32-gallon trash can or bag, or actually no, it says 30. You can't find a 30. They don't exist. They only sell 32. Like we'll be changing that to actually say a cart.
Yeah.
There's things about, only 4 tires per year. I don't count them. We have no system for tracking that. So we need to decide, can we track that? Do we have a system, a data platform to do that, or do we take it out? Because it's kind of the ban without a plan.
Right.
That you have something written that you don't enforce. There's limits on how many times you can set out yard waste. Did you know that? That's in the law. We don't follow that.
Right.
So there's all these things in there that we either don't enforce or just never came to fruition that. I'm not sure. I can't say off the top of my head.
Those are good. I just wanted a few examples
Yeah.
to kind of get a ballpark of what you're.
I've mocked up a lot of the edits already, but, there's a lot of improvements that could be made, and especially looking at other towns and villages around
Yeah.
here and seeing what their
They would know.
practices
They
are.
would have extensive knowledge on best policies in other
Because-
municipalities.
The only thing is, so now we're gonna enforce them?
What's that?
It didn't say that. See, that was the thing, is I think it says something crazy,
Either
like
enforce them or get
5
rid of
yard
them,
waste
right?
set outs a year, right? But we don't enforce it, so why is it in there? Maybe it shouldn't even be in there.
Right.
So I'm not saying that we enforce everything, but I think there's some things we should consider. Tires, I don't know that we want to take 50 tires from every resident, but we do have a program where they can put out tires and request a pickup, and we'll pick them up. But we have no way to keep track of it. And if we did keep track of it, maybe we'd find some of these people that are taking them illegally from chop shops and stuff. So
That's what you're gonna find.
something to think about.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think to Ann's point, that's, there's some things that we're going to want to change. There are some things that it doesn't make sense, and so we take it out. And having an outside consultant who has seen what other municipalities have, and obviously any changes would come before the council. We can't make any of those changes without you guys. So, but to comb through those ordinances is time consuming.
I have one question.
Of course.
For anybody you're talking 32-gallon carts, right?
The carts would be like a 95.
Yeah, what we would be proposing is a 95 gallon, right? 95? 95 gallon cart, which, is significantly bigger than what we allow right now.
Okay, so then that's pushing the implement that you want the machine to be able to lift this to help take it off of the, okay, and that's going for typically larger family people that are putting more trash out, right?
I mean, you would have the 95 gallon cart, whether or not you fill it or not is maybe, I don't know if I'm understanding the question. Maybe
Well, you answered that.
Yeah.
For those that have more than that, and the trash is outside of that cart, is that going to be a fee, or is that
So, I
going to be
mean,
charged?
I think that's part of what we need to figure out and bring that ordinance before the council. Do we, are there some things that you can set outside the cart? Are there things that, if it's, I don't know.
Cart's overrunning and it's full.
Yeah,
let's
if you're-
say we
if
had
you're,
a party
you
or
know,
something like that, and there's
Yeah. Do we allow, you have an extra bag of trash? Do we
gonna
allow you to
get
set that
tagged?
next to the cart, or do we say, sorry, save that for next week because anything outside? I mean, these are all the questions that we, collectively need to answer in terms of what are the best practices? How do we, do we allow people to buy another cart? And then you've got 2 95 gallon carts.
sitting on the side of a house.
So there are a million different ways that we could go with it. I mean, and these are all the questions we're going to have to answer. It's like, once we move to carts, what does that mean for things that don't fit? I have a filter for my furnace that doesn't fit in the cart. Can I set it aside? Can I set it next to the cart? Or is that, something that, well, you got to figure out how to get it in there. Just don't, never put it in the recycling bin.
So
Don't
the
worry.
recycling bins are still gonna be intact.
So what we're proposing is that you'd have two carts, two 95-gallon carts, one for trash and one for recycling, because, Okra, those blue bins are just, and Okra will tell you this as well, it's just not serving us anymore. Recycling was introduced, in the 80s, the size of the carts, the size of the bins are still the same, they're open. We all saw that the last few weeks where we had snow melt, windy conditions, and there was just recycling everywhere. It was awful. And so, we would want to give a 95-gallon cart, which, people generally, I know in my household, often we're putting out 2 blue bins because one just isn't enough. And then, you got to hope it doesn't blow all over the place. So we'd give a 95-gallon tote for recycling as well.
Couldn't we kind of look at maybe getting 95 for trash and maybe a 45 for recycle?
I mean, I think that's in part what we would talk to B&L about is, what fits. I mean, if it's not, if it doesn't matter whether or not you fill it up, you don't have to fill it up to the rim, and as long as somebody isn't lifting it, there's no harm. Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing we could talk about too, is how frequently do we pick up recycling?
It's the industry standard.
Yeah, so that's, and we would make those decisions because all that stuff would go into the ordinances.
Some of our neighborhoods have smaller houses that wouldn't have any room
Right.
for 95-gallon.
No driveway.
So then they don't have to fill them up.
Free?
So then they don't have to fill them up. I mean,
Oh, I'm not saying no room to put them anywhere. Like my house, I mean,
Right.
you could barely stick in between my neighbor's property
Mm-hmm.
and the side of my house.
yeah, where are they stored? I mean, like I said, we're not the first city to move. We're definitely not the first city to move to totes, and a city, Rochester and Buffalo that have similar neighborhood characteristics to us.
And these all
We'll
got
ask
little
them.
wheels on them, right?
Wheels on them, yes.
So those wheels, when you have wheels and things like that, they break.
Well, and that's one of the.
Come over and fix the wheel.
So we're going to send our mechanics out.
Commissioner Robinson.
Send our mechanics out to repair. But that's one of the things that I put in here is what's the procedure for lost, damaged, or stolen carts? We're going to have to decide what to do about that.
I have kind of a stupid question, but what are we going to do with everyone's existing trash cans? Who picks up all those?
Do we put them in a 95-pounder?
Yes. Yeah, good question,
They could take them away.
Yeah. Yeah, people could use them for all the things they use blue bins for that is not recycling. Everybody that, when they move their kid into college uses a blue bin, now they could use these things. Yeah, I don't know. Again, that's another, what did Rochester do when they moved to carts? What did Buffalo do? What did they do? I mean, there's a lot of questions.
I got another monkey wrench too. So,
Yeah.
Like there was, we were talking in the snow. It's very hard. I just said we were talking. We were talking. We all a team, right? I'm saying. But
Every man for himself.
we have a, snow can be a lot sometimes, right? So we have a 95, however much it is, bin.
Right.
For that elderly person or that disabled person, is there a way that you can have somebody go up to and grab that, or can we flag it?
Yeah, I think that's these are all the questions that we're going to have to answer. Rochester moved to carts and they have a lot of snow too. What do they do for people who might not be physically able to bring it to we help a lot of people now, right?
Yeah, currently we do.
We do a lot of that now.
For disabled and elderly currently, but the wheels make it 100 times easier.
Right. So it is to some degree a service that we offer now. Hopefully the wheels make it a little bit easier for folks. But yeah, these are all the things as we, and I think that's in part why the pilot would be helpful, so that we're not doing this citywide. We start in one neighborhood and see what kind of issues come up that maybe we didn't anticipate or anything like that. So it's a great question and one we're going to have to figure out.
Pilot for a year?
No, it wouldn't be a year. Let me look at this really tiny timeline that I put at the end. Pilot trash with wheeled carts, June through February, June 22nd through February 23rd, 2023 is what they have here as proposed.
8 months.
And then, citywide rollout from April of next year through December. And that's for trash. We would start with trash. And then recycling would kind of overlap there, so.
And you can read that.
I've got
You got the big
glasses.
sheet. You got the big sheet.
I've got glasses. What can I say?
All right.
So, I mean, you know, just as a final closing, there are a million different decisions that are gonna have to be made in this process, you know, and we wanna do it in partnership with the council. Having Barton and LaJudas, is critical and essential to helping us make those decisions. You know, they're not gonna make the decisions for us, but we need someone who can gather the data, who can give us best practices, who can help define the options for us. And so I would strongly request and urge you to approve our contract with them so that we can move forward with them. I mean, all the things that were brought up today are excellent questions, and there are a million more out there, and having B&L will be critical in terms of bandwidth and resources. to
Quick
answer.
question. So January 2022 was the first report. We paid them the consulting fee before I was a counselor. This is step 2 consulting report. Is there a step 3, 4, 5, 6, or are we done after this? Do you
This
anticipate?
is, I mean, this is implementation, so, you know, I don't anticipate, they've laid out the whole proposal here, and it's, you know, the only, I don't see what more could go beyond implementation. I mean, what's, to evaluate the thing that we just implemented, like, probably not. So as far as I can see, this would be, you know, the last thing we would have to do, because then the program is up and running and working beautifully.
Okay, thanks.
So procedurally, last question.
Is it?
Procedure,
I'm kidding, counselor. I hope it's not.
last question. Well, last question maybe in this little.
Yeah.
So we vote on this, we say yes, we're on the road, but there will still be something coming back to the council to adopt anything that they
Of course.
come up with.
Of course.
Yeah, we all favor.
Absolutely. So, you know, ordinances, you know, yeah, each step of the ARPA plan, you know, any contracts or, you know, but I think, you know, any ones that require council, but I think, you know, starting the road with B&L, you know, is the right plan, but obviously, yeah, anything that, the council will be a partner in this, because anything we need to bring before you, ordinances and everything, will need your buy-in. No, that's fine. That's the name of this part of the meeting.
So this is back to contracting, I just thought of something. If we contract out, do we know what they pay their people versus what we pay?
Yeah, I mean, that would be part of, you know, the RFP that we would issue would probably be, you know, what are the salaries for the folks that you pay, and, yeah, right, and it'd have to be prevailing wage. I mean, you know, we'd have to ask them, you know, soup to nuts, how their operation works.
Okay, thank you.
You be glad, it slipped right out my mind when I was gonna ask, so I'm good.
I'm good. We good? Any questions? Okay.
Good job,
Thank you.
DPW chair.
Crackling mic means meeting is adjourned.
Jeepers.